Well, welcome everybody. Congratulations to those of you who were true through the massive snowstorm. Nearly closed Washington. Closed 2 school systems in the area last night. But unfortunately, for the rest of us, we're in pretty good shape. It was very attractive looking at the window view is what I'll have today. We're very fortunate to have a really content-rich program today. So we want to get right to the agenda and talk about various issues that are happening around the association. Just for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dan Chow. I'm the chair of the Industry Advisory Council, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to this month's the first member meeting in 2015 on behalf of Rick Holgate, who's somewhere in the room. Rick, who's the president of the American Council of Technology, will be serving today as your MC and sort of walking through the agenda. Just wanted to give you a few updates quickly. First is the agenda itself. We have a number of updates from the very active and busy schedule that many of you are involved in, that ACT-IAC is working on to contribute to government in so many different ways. And so we'll talk about that. We'll hear about various pieces of program. You see here, I won't read through the agenda because you can see here, but I will introduce each speaker as we go. And then we have a very exciting program that we'll be getting to at 4:30 around the government working to advance the customer service experience for all citizens in many different matters. We have some terrific speakers, leaders who are blazing trails across government and different agencies, and we'll have, I know, a very interactive and informative discussion. So first I'd like to just make a few remarks here. Again, there's lots of work happening across the association in the shared interest groups, in the professional development arena, in the Institute for Innovation. The Small Business Alliance just had an event here in the facility just in the last hour. Just a lot of activity, and you hear about some of that occurring today. Among all the activities, Rick and I and the executive committees of ACT-IAC have been working on a number of key priorities, some of which we'll talk about today and some of which you've heard about in other settings. And we'll be talking about these over the coming months as our term comes to an end and we look to a new executive committee that will come in this coming summer and advancing these. Some of these priorities include customer service, and thanks to Martha Doris, who will be moderating the panel today, and Jim Williams, who are leading that effort, working with government and industry leaders in this area around both Washington and around the country, really. And you'll hear more about that. Helping the administration on the innovation agenda, working with ACT-IAC, we've met with Greg Gotthard, working with the digital service, we've met with Martin Dickerson, to try to advance the messages that are contained in the playbook and the other arenas that they're working with agencies on, and broaden the aperture so that more of the government, more of industry working with the government, understands what best practice means in the international setting. So creating a greater sort of force multiplier for that message across lots of different information technology activities that we're involved in. Extending the professional development programs. We've heard before about a new program we're going to have at a very senior level, the SDS level called the Champions, which will complete our professional development hierarchy from the entry-level associates program through to the Voyagers, the Partners, and now the Champions. And we, of course, have the very active ACT-IAC Fellows program, of which I'm sure many in the room have graduated into that program. So we're really fortunate to benefit from a lot of terrific activity in the professional development area. And then we have a review going on. Many of you, of course, work through our shared interest group structure. We're reviewing through the work that Sherry Weir, who I think I saw walking in the room, is leading to really take a look at the SIGs and how they're contributing to make sure that we're aligning well with government priorities as this administration reaches its final 2 years and looking forward to what issues in technology future administration might consider and should consider to really drive value for the citizen going forward. So those are some of the key priorities that we're going to be working on. And the last one, of course, is cybersecurity, which, of course, is an activity that is always top of mind in our association, working to influence how the government treats cybersecurity as part of the acquisition process. That's another area where we have a lot of activity going on. We're working closely on all of these issues with OMB. We've had regular meetings with the Deputy Director for Management, Beth Cover, who for any of you that were at the Executive Leadership Conference, we call it a keynote address. We've met with the Acting Federal Chief Information Officer, Lisa Schlosser. We've met with OFPP, with Ann Long. And so we're continuing to try to work with leaders that are affecting the activities that our government and industry members are contributing to and interested in at various different levels and trying to continue that conversation going. So if any of you have thoughts or that you should keep in mind as we're going through these meetings, we're addressing these priorities, please approach Rick or myself or really any member of the executive committee. I think in the program, the executive committees are usually listed right in the program for this event, so you see the names there, and you can come up and find us. And then, of course, you'll hear about some very exciting conferences that are coming up as we go through today's program. Just a couple of other notes before I turn over the microphone. So we have a new initiative that we're calling the Young Professionals Council. And this is really an exciting opportunity that ACT-IAC is engaging in to think about how do we take new entrants into the workforce, both in government and industry, and allow them to create the same type of collaborative sharing platform that so many of you have benefited from in working, and certainly I have done through my career in government and in industry, and allowing them to create that connective tissue and to provide innovation and advice to government and industry in various ways through this kind of, you see here a slide talking about the applications to this work. Angela Stauffer, is Angela here? I'm not sure. Angela's not here, but she is a member of the ACT-IAC staff who is leading this effort and putting this together. If you or colleagues that you know of are interested, please spread the word on this. We really want to get a robust set of applications so that we can put together a really dynamic council going forward. The Small Business Conference is coming up just a few blocks from here. I'm not sure that any of the Small Business Conference leaders are here, so they've asked me to just mention this briefly again for those of you that are members of small business or members of large businesses that partner with small business or government officials who seek out small businesses to provide innovative solutions. This conference has been a real successful event the last few years. The theme that you see is the 21st Century Roadmap. There will be a sort of an opportunity pipeline where small businesses will be able to hear about opportunities coming up from various different agencies, what those opportunities look like, what the acquisition strategies are, learn about the programs, etc. And then an emerging technology fair where small businesses will be able to showcase their innovations, both from a technology, process, and organization perspective. And finally, of course, very exciting element of this conference is the Small Business Advocacy Award. Nominations for a winner, one from government, one from industry, who really bring forward the cause of bringing small business into the government market. As we know, the lifeblood of this organization is that we continue to be refreshed by new members who come and join us and bring new ideas to the forefront and allow us to continue to improve. And you see here the list of new members who have joined since our last member meeting. Are any new members in the room? I think I know at least one. If you're here, can you just raise your hand? That's great. And let's all give our new members a round of applause. We welcome you to the ACT-IAC world, and we encourage you to get involved, and we'll welcome any ideas you have of how we can improve this organization. So thank you for joining. So it is now my great pleasure to introduce colleague and friend Sarah DiCarlo, who will talk about Igniting Innovation, and then we'll go from there. Sarah. I'm just going to kind of stay up here.
So I can get the book. Igniting Innovation just ended up being a huge success last year. And of course, we don't want to rest on our laurels. We're really hoping to see it grow even further in the future. So we did a call for nominations in the fall. And last year we had 83. This year we had 102. So that was really great to see that kind of an uptick. And honestly, I felt guilty because we had 2 extensions and we still had people who wanted to submit, and I drew the hard line and cut it off. So hopefully they'll be the first submissions for next year. But anyway, we had the fellows provided us with 50 volunteers this year to serve as judges. And each of them reviewed about 20 or so of the nominations and scored them for us, and we racked and stacked them and came up with the top 30 innovations. So each innovation was read by 10 to 12 people. So we really felt like we had a really good way to, have, one person wouldn't throw up the judgment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm very, very thankful for the judges who supported us this year, because it's really a big job. And honestly, I couldn't believe it. I didn't even have to go running after them to finish the job. I couldn't believe it. It was the best group. So kudos to the fellows, and thank you for all the hard work and paying attention to a deadline. It was wonderful. So we have 30 innovations. They're from federal, they're state. We have Utah coming, Colorado is coming. We have New York City is coming into town. The EPA from Atlanta is coming in this year. So we have a wonderful mix of innovations. Some of them are mobility, some of them are health, some of them are security. I mean, they're all over the place and really put together defense and civilian, a wonderful mix of innovations in government. And if you come, I hope that you will have an opportunity. And the goal is for you to, we had a bunch of millennials come up with this design. Okay, so here's the design. Come into our science fair type space. So they're all set up, and you will have an app that you can download for your phone. You're not allowed to do that because there may consider a company restriction. You will have computers for you to use on site, but hopefully you'll be able to use the app because it will allow you to tweet and send pictures and sort of generating some excitement about the various innovations. And you will be able to go around and meet with the different innovations and select up to 8 of them. We will call for a halt call for a big vote, and press the send button, and we will announce the top 8. The top 8 will come up and they're going to give a pitch for 5 minutes each on their project. And we're going to have kind of a Shark Tank type thing for them. Okay, so that will go on. We'll get a couple of feedbacks and this and that. And I'm still on here. And maybe not. Oh yeah, that's the agenda. Okay, welcome back. So it's all right. And so anyway, and while you're listening to the 8, you'll be able to vote again. And the top innovation will be selected. So it's like boom, boom, boom. It's like the People's Choice Award, Shark Tank, American Idol, whatever all together. So it's free. We really wanted there to be no barriers for people to come. Again, last year we had about 800 people there, so I'm hoping we'll have 1,000 registrants this year. Last year we had 400 from government and almost 400 from industry. I mean, it was a wonderful mix, and it's really important for the people who are in this top 30 to get out and vote, because the more votes they get from their friends, then the more votes they get, right? So we encourage them to help us promote the event as well. We have an invitation for a really wonderful speaker, primary speaker. I can't announce it because it hasn't gotten a check in the good box yet, but there will be a wonderful speaker while we're tallying the votes towards the end of the day. And we found last year that some of the comments about igniting innovation were that people really learned a lot and made great contacts from people who could help them with projects that they were working on. And that was really the idea, was to not only recognize innovations, but because of this sort of science fair atmosphere that we try to create, it's really a wonderful opportunity for people to swap information about, how did they get funding for it, how did they get support for it, were there any modules within what they did that would transfer to somebody else's program. So anyway, we are hopeful that education will continue this coming year. Oops, one right there. All right, so there we are. That's the lineup for the day. And so we'll give it, and of course we always end with reception. We got to be able to congratulate the winners. Okay. So let me just tell you about a few other things that are going on in the Institute. We have started, much to Martha Dorsey's chagrin, a proof of concept for a collaborative site that, it's class, it's working great. It's been, the proof of concept is through MITRE. They are our research partner for the Institute, and so they allow us to stand up a site on their site, on our little space for us. We have about 200 people who are on our Institute site. We're happy to take cards from anybody here who would like to join us in the site. The idea was to have a place for innovators to put forward questions or comments or start discussions, among other innovators, and have a space for innovation. So we have been doing the VA project, which you will probably hear about later, for customer service, using that, and it's been working out very well. So the intention intention is to then transfer that capability to ACT-IAC probably in the early spring. So the goal is to move it off of the minor site and onto the ACT-IAC site. Then through the leadership of Martha Doris and Dean Williams, there's a group of about 20 or so people who have been working with VA. Greg Gibbons started out as our champion, and now Tom Allen, who's been recently named as the Chief Veteran Customer Experience Officer, is taking over. He is really fabulous. He's got an amazing background and we told a very active headline. And so anyway, we delivered a draft and we're meeting with them on Friday to discuss sort of the next set of discussions. Next is our Harnessing Life events. Bruce Strauss from SSA and Pete Wilson. I was the chair of that project. We just done a selection of our steering committee members, and we're getting ready to have a kickoff with them, and we'll be having a broader kickoff meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you submitted your name to be considered for that, please stay tuned. We'll be hearing more. And then last but not least, we drafted a concept for the presidential transition papers, and want to try and make those very relevant and for the new administration, nonpartisan. So that's it. Thanks.
So Mary Southers here. Mary. Will talk to us about acquisition methods. Mary is the industry chair for Elements and Methods.
March 3rd, I'm the governor, so next slide, I'll tell you why. So what I'd like to tell you about acquisition excellence, March 3rd. We had a very interactive session on confirmed speakers. We have Ann Long, who's going to give an overview of the Center for Memo Transforming the Marketplace, as well as we have Jenny Hart, Leslie Field, Paul Gregory from the VA Acquisition Academy, Steve Strauss from the Acquisition Center of Excellence, Jack Kosis from GSA, Dave Grant from FEMA, several members of the VHS Office of Procurement Operations and speaking as well. And we have several contracting officers, all levels of contracting officers participating in the discussion from U.S. Digital Service, GSA FedSim, and Department of State. So we're excited. We're putting a lot of sessions together. You can see on the different topics, and we're introducing a new format, challenge ones. Basically, the speakers I just listed have presented us with acquisition challenges that they're having in their workplace today. And they have agreed to sponsor this, participate in the session where we'll be gathering input both from government and from industry on ways that can address these challenges. At the end of the day, each topic will come up with the winner, the best of the day. It's counterintuitive. So, warning. So we also have training sessions. And what's interesting about this, you'll see a lot of training acquisition institutes within the government will be providing training as a session. It's a great opportunity for industry to participate in some of these sessions that are normally for government only, particularly for new people in the workforce to get a better understanding of how government works and why they make the decisions that they do. Shark Tank, Sarah, we thought we were going to be the first ones to do this. So what we're doing is each of those government sponsors that I mentioned, like Dave Grant, Paul Gregory, are going to be our sharks, and the winners of each session will pitch to them their ideas. And these government sponsors have agreed if there's ideas that they like, they will pilot them within their organizations and will report out results of those pilots. So it's very exciting. And it should be fun because we can some stealing like we going on our things and all that. And then we will have a lot of exhibitors. We're going to have a lot of demonstrations, a lot of government tools will be demonstrated during the session, as well as the ACT-IAC Acquisition Academy. So a lot of content. Please register. We are going to be having registration this year because of our format. A lot of the session rooms are going to be smaller. Our registration is ahead of where we were this month last year. So if it sounds interesting, I really do the best. Thank you.
And so now, Sonny Hockey, the CIO for the Federal Services Administration and the co-chair for the Management and Change Fund. Sonny Hockey will talk to us about it.
My name is Ashley. I'm here today. Rita is not here, so I'm going to try to find out if remember, although I'm not trying. So, as you can see this year, I went on stage and I said that this is going to be the best I've ever seen. And I'm very proud to say that we've been putting a lot of work into it this year in May. And I can honestly say that some of the work that we're building on that started at USC, is going to really make it into a great experience for those of you who are very excited to talk more about it today. The theme of the conference this year is actually culture for innovation, and the reason why we picked this theme after lots of interesting dialogue was because we've all been into those panels and discussions where there's a lot of great energy around innovation and cloud and mobile and big data, but a lot of times conferences ends with, well, yes, but the culture gets in the way, it's hard to change that culture, and if only there wasn't a cultural issue, then we would be able to do a lot more. So this year we felt, if that is really the theme that we've all heard, let's really attack that issue head on. We really want to find in this conference an intersection between not just culture getting in the way of innovation, but how can we actually use innovation to change culture and really learn from the private sector. So a few things that you will learn and you can see and want to see, which I'm personally very excited about, is that we're going to try we're going to harness every opportunity to really bring private sector experience into the conference. And when I say private sector, it's certainly you in the room today. We also want to learn from those companies that don't traditionally work with each other. We want to learn from the start from the West Coast. We want to learn from customer creative organizations like Uber and Yelp. And we have to learn from these companies on how they can manage culture change, adoption, user-centric design for millions and millions of users, and what tenets they really follow so we can hopefully bring the same kind of concept into government. So some of the sessions that we're very excited about are, first of all, we're very committed to each other to not have any panels in this conference. So when we talk about panels. Each person is going to call a hackathon. The idea is that we walk into a defined problem, we walk out with a product. The product could be as simple as a checklist, a priority list, a template, or it could actually be something more concrete, like whether it's architecture of some sort or a strategy or a plan or a workflow. We want to really get out of this conference with well-defined targets, with one organization, and say this is what we accomplished while we were out in Cambridge. Hackathon topics, there's 4 hackathon topics that have been finalized. There's one more that we are outsourcing. So there's actually a Twitter campaign going on right now where we're asking all of you and your counterparts and other companies as well as government employees to recommend, suggest topics that we can then make into a hackathon track. The 4 topics that we've coalesced on are developing the room, harnessing human capital. We hope to tackle real human challenges with culture, adoption, and change management in this track. We want to talk about network disruption. We want to tackle some of the new, brand new things that are coming our way. We know the industry is adopting them, and we are going to start the conversation on how government can leverage these concepts of Internet of Things, and 3D printing, and autonomous vehicles, and those types of things that are really probably 5 to 10 years away. But if we don't start talking about them now, we really can. We start putting plans in place to get off in the future. I want to talk about the vision of the crowd. This track, we also want to talk about things like open source, crowdsourcing, bringing social media input into government operations, customer service to the next generation. And lastly, we want to talk about this is actually a partnership we have with the ACT-IAC Academy, which is a leadership toolkit. It's building on the work that we've done in USC. We're going to have some topics that I think all leaders, industry, government leaders are going to find useful as self-development. Two of the speakers have been finalized. Lisa Bordell and CIO Future Think. We're very excited to see me to come and speak with us in this session. Mike Walsh, CEO of Tomorrow. He's a famous author and speaker. We'd love to hear from him. I can't tell you more. We have other names in the mix. We're really trying to bring again through these learning sessions those brilliant minds. Really, those folks who don't get to hear from day on these a lot of these conferences sessions where we love to learn from them. Either folks who started their own companies, people who were successful and were able to scale an idea, people, West Coast folks, or non-government industry folks, where we could really learn from how they retain customers, how they go after new markets and industries, and then try to find parallels between our world and theirs. So more to come on this. There's going to be a couple of big announcements coming up in the next month on new speaker things. There's also going to be a couple of Twitter campaigns coming up. We want to have a campaign where people self-evaluate. We're calling it the I'm Your Digital Ninja campaign. And you kind of take a Twitter base or an online survey to kind of self-evaluate where you sit in terms of the digital nativeness, if you will. There's going to be an innovation zone very similar to ACT, where we'll be talking to that. It's exciting. So I expect all of you to be there. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sonny. Okay, we have now an Academy update. I think it's right here, Jim. Are you going to do? Okay, so Jim McRae, who is the director of the Academy, will now tell us what's up.
Okay, so I have 30 seconds. So I'll go to the slides that Rabia was going to give today. And these are the upcoming classes we have. We have a full agenda for the coming year. We're filling out now April, May, and June. We're looking at some other things. But I thought what I really like to make good is you'll notice from the two presentations before this on AE and on MOC that the Academy is integrated into what we're doing. The Academy is becoming more integrated in all our activities. You've heard the video announcements. It says MOC is a Academy accredited event. Good stuff. So right now what I'm looking for is some more volunteers for the coming year. We have a whole bunch of new classes that we're working on, and if any of these interest you, both government and industry people working on this. We're working on an agile acquisition class, a class on how to acquire agile services. We're working on, with ODNI, we had a very successful data sharing class that the PHS and ODNI really liked the class, and it was kind of a data sharing 101, and so now they're asking us to build a data sharing 201, 301, more advanced classes about data sharing, why and how, and all those things. We're putting together, how do you put cybersecurity, how do you put security in acquisitions ahead of time, instead of trying to base it on after, and we're working with the cybersecurity signal. We're working on one class on career movement. How do people move around in careers in town? And how does that happen? Something that really benefits the human resources people are working on. And then finally, my specialty, we're working on one called Agency Spotlights, where we'll build a class that will detail about what an agency and working with people, with government people that are going to help us. There are 3 agencies that we're perfectly doing, that we're going to start out and looking for volunteers there. So I'll be doing a call for volunteers. Excellent.
Is the other one here? Great. Come on up. The government chair and the other from Big Data Committee. Top of mind of many of us. Only 5 seconds.
Probably a new face to many of you, although many in the room are working with full disclosure. I'm the Director of Operations of the Youth Program. The area that we would say called full disclosure, because I know I'm working with just an overview of the SIG itself, the emerging technology. We really have 3 tracks that are active. One that's agile, which many of you may have some interaction with. One that's technology technology research that we're asking for volunteers to start getting involved. But we're finding that between the industry and the government sectors, there's a lot of need for information about what's new, something mentioned already, what's innovative, what's working in government, what doesn't work in government. And so we're actually looking to start to build momentum behind that. The mystery committee that started off with big data and morphed into analytics and big data is one that really has had quite a bit of traction, and one that I would encourage you to get interested and involved with. As many of you know, the realm of jargon that we hear, certainly in this area, whether it's cloud computing or big data, always has a reality checkpoint. We use that in the committee to be particular. What are people doing pragmatically as practitioners at their agencies? Where can they learn from digital activity and innovations that the private sector is using, and to have a forum for that exchange? So without reading these slides here, I'm sure all the detail will be made available to you, but I want to highlight some things that we did. About a year ago, we had a government-only symposium, about 60 people in the room, including the intelligence community, law enforcement, financial people, healthcare. And we had a great exchange across the table of what was working and sort of let's take down the posture and talk about some of the reality. What didn't work? When could you not get funded for something? When did you hire somebody and then fall to the parties? You got the wrong software, you got the wrong services, and you got the wrong result. And as a result of that, we posted symposium notes that are available on the ACT-IAC site to members. And that's really comprehensive government perspective on how to help the industry engage with government more effectively and how to use innovation to engage with the government. The next thing that's coming up is we asked, since we have growth membership here, I'll actually show you a number. We started at 30 some odd members, and we're around 170 right now. There's a even distribution between industry and government. It's very much government oriented with great input from industry, but we added academia in as well. And to give you some examples of where we've had successes, and I would again encourage you to get involved with us or reach out to us. We actually partner with people from universities, so MIT, Harvard, University of Virginia, UNC's labs, Illinois, part of the committee. And we actually enabled agencies to partner with graduate students to do studies, to do innovation testing. The second area is we wanted to start hearing from the private sector more, and obviously not a marketing posture, but we're having a symposium coming up now in March, where we want to put everybody around the table and do a lot of information sharing. What have we mutually learned together? What are the next generations? What's the new digital horizon for the area, particularly in analytics? We've had some sectors talk a lot about data management, others talk about analytics tools, others talk about how to set up a lab. So a lot of the activity that we're looking at crossed into human capital, it crossed into famous areas like CMS and the healthcare area, how to do innovations in APM, how to do work as far as do not pay in the Treasury program. So we've got a broad spectrum of resources, and what we switched to is in our monthly meetings, we actually have practitioners speak. So we've had people from the academic institutions, we've had government speakers, where they're actually sharing their experience. So whether it's a Hubble telescope development, or how do I engage and track customer responsiveness or enthusiasm about my agency or lack thereof using analytics. So it's very much sort of that putting together, how do you put the analytics, the data, on the actual practical experience together. You'll see at the bottom too, I mentioned a couple of things that we did. We actually provided panelists for a number of the other SIGs and a number of the other committees, and we started to set ourselves up as a resource center as well. So we kind of were the mystery guest for that committee that was very large. People heard about it, but they didn't know what we really did. So it's really anything that's practical application for analytics, whether it's technology, professional services, data management, and it's also a forum in which we have a big resource library that we're building out, so we can actually come test models, test ideas in that environment. Thank you very much.
Just a lot happening across the association. I know many of you are involved in these, and you'll find out more than after the meeting by probably folks at the reception. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our panelists. I'd like to introduce the moderator of the panel, Martha, who will then talk about the panel itself. So Martha Doris, who is really a great leader in government for decades. And it's been a privilege to work with Martha since I was in the government early, and then since in the industry through ACT-IAC and other forums. Martha, it's just everything you touch tends to have an element of gold. So we're very happy that you're touching this initiative as well. Martha, of course, most importantly, is a past president of the American Council for Technology, and she will lead us through the panel. So please give a warm welcome to Martha.
I would say if I'm nothing, I'm persistent. So it's my pleasure to moderate this panel this afternoon, and I titled the panel, "The Customer Revolution is Here." We've talked a lot in different forums, but really never to this forum except at DLC. And really, the reason that the customer revolution is here is because consumers and customers now have the ability to make their voices heard, as we know in the private sector. Their expectations are changing based on their consumer experience as well as changing technology. So we know that the most successful companies, products can be the same, but the differentiating factor is really around the services and their customer experience. So keeping customers happy is really more cost effective than trying to bring back customers that are unhappy. And I'm sure all of you, you all run your businesses here, you find that in the business that you have. We always, we think a lot in government about how do we take experiences in the private sector and morph them into the government space, because in some cases they have to come to the government. It's not like I can file my taxes other than the IRS. It's not like I can go, if I'm a veteran, somewhere else other than VA to get my benefits. But what we know is that it's critical to the national security as well as the trust in government, because all of that leads to kind of people feeling disenfranchised with government. So it's really critical to the country, and Forrester's done some work on it, and their reports say that a weak federal customer experience undermines our political system, impacts pride in the country, and optimism in the country's future. So I think we all do it, but we don't shine a spotlight on it, which is what we want to do through ACT-IAC, and we'll talk a little bit later about all the work that we're going to do through ACT-IAC in the future, and intermingling ourselves into Jimbo Craze Academy, and into the NFC, and into the and everything. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at. And customer experience is really not a partisan issue. It's we have all the permission that we need to be able to take these efforts on. There's been executive orders, there's the GPRA, there's the GPRA, SONA GPRA, there's memos, there's all kinds of executive orders and presidential memos telling us that we should make customer service and the way that the actual impact that we have on our customers a priority. So today we have GSA, we have VA, Social Security, Federal Student Aid, and the IRS. And they represent the way the government provides services to seniors, disabled, veterans, taxpayers, businesses, and students. And so this really does represent a large portion of the service community, not the entire service community, but a large portion. IRS served 110 million unique visitors during the FY13 filing season, including mobile, 6.5 million walk-ins, 84 million calls, 30 million live, and 54 million through IVR, 200 million notifications, 20 million inbound. VA served 22 million living veterans, 8.9 million are enrolled in healthcare. Social Security, 63.2 million received benefits from SSA programs in 2013. And the federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work study funds to students every year. So as you can see, this is a lot of money going out, and and we may be able to get into, but providing a good customer experience really saves government money, because as you provide information the first time, or solve the problem the first time, it cuts down on kind of repeat visitors and repeat calls. So why is it important to government? It's really about understanding customers, understanding the citizens, and creating better products for them, which can lead, if you're in the government, to more money for what you need, driving customer satisfaction. We stay out of the press, we stay away from the hill, we increase our employee engagement, and increase loyalty and trust in government. So it's really a critical issue. So with that, let me introduce our panelists. We have Wendy, the Director of Awareness and Outreach at the Department of Education. We have Heather Crusoe from GSA, our Chief Customer Officer, and Monica Ross, recently appointed as the Associate Administrator for OCSIT and ACT-IAC. Walt Cooper from the VA, who's their Director for Veteran Experience. Rajiv Baker is the Director of the Office of Online Services at IRS, and then Herb Strauss, the Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Systems and the Deputy CIO for the Social Security Administration. So I do have long bios, but what I would say is that this panel brings a wealth of previous experience to the table and to the government, whether it's from the military to help our veterans, whether it's from industry, both big consulting firms and internet startups, as well as the banking industry and nonprofits. So this is a really high-powered group we got here. So I'm going to start off by giving each panelist 3 to 5 minutes to talk about an overview of kind of where your agency is and your role in customer service within your organization. And then there's 3 things I want out of this panel. I want it to be interactive, so we've got microphones in the room, and I'm coming down also. I want it to be fun, so let's liven it up a little. And the third thing is I want you to leave here with something you really didn't know, or some kind of wow experience where you're like, I didn't know the government was doing that, or I didn't know it was that important, or I didn't know you all were doing that kind of work. So please help me to make this a successful panel, because it's not just us, but it's also you. So why don't we start with, I'll go all the way to your left, my right, Rajiv. You can start.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. And I see some familiar faces out here, so it's never fun. It's good to know. So I thought I'd talk about a few things today and start off with a little bit about what the IRS is doing when it comes to online services. And then go into some of the things that we've done over the last few years to develop our digital vision and strategy and how we're going to operationalize it across the agency. And then maybe end with some lessons learned to the extent that So the Office of Online Services was formed about 4 years ago. And the idea was that there was an enterprise-wide group to look at how do you create a digital or web customer service channel for the IRS. So think of us as the digital channel for the other legacy channels that we already have. We have phones, we have paper, we have walk-ins, we have mail. But the idea was to look enterprise-wide, how do you create industry best practices through the agency and set up not just a strategy or a program management office, but actually set up the organization and capability that the IRS would use, just like we probably didn't know how to run call centers a year and a half years ago, but we do now. And so how do we now develop the capability to run a web service channel within the agency for the long term and really learn it within the agency. So the idea was to set up this group. The functions that we have, we describe them. They're traditional in a financial institution, or really in an internet-based organization, or environment. But it's one of many channels. We operate in a multi-channel environment, non-channel environment. So we have to make sure in the context of strung to red, if red is blocking, and all the other channels will be present. So the functions that we have are, first and foremost, user experience design. I'll talk a little bit about that. That's super important because it seems to be, and it is the most important thing to start with, what is that customer experience? Frictionless, especially when it comes to APIs. Number one. Number two, content and editorial. So tax information is very complex, requires a command around, and so how do we make it simple, consumable on the web? Because we are great at putting forms and putting large documents that people use, like millions today. But in the new world of digital, how do you do it in a way that's consumable on the web? Third function is product management. So the notion of product management exists out there. It exists in typical non-digital businesses, but it also exists obviously in digital. So in my view, you need that function to really be able to look end to end for how you deal with transactions on the web. So I'll talk a little more about that. So talk about UX, talk about content, product management, web analytics. Another piece that's super critical to making sure that we're doing everything that needs to be done to get a point of view of the customer and what the customer needs to do. And then finally, in a unique situation for us is we have a portal that's responsible for the actual the site and some of the technology around the site. So think of us when you're delivering a web experience. You have the web page, you have the design of the web page, you have the words on the page, and some sort of app, or maybe not, right? And then the analytics, and that's how I kind of describe it. That's what we are delivering to the agency. That's what we want to deliver and scale for years and years to come. So that's online services. And there are 4 different operating divisions within IRS. There's creative investment, there's small business, there's tax exempt, and there's large business. So we're a service provider to the division on all using this business. So we looked at, in terms of our service strategy and how do we deliver it, we couldn't do it in a vacuum, we couldn't do it just for division. We had to look across the entire service approach. We looked across all the touch points that we had, and we actually served just some numbers, 145 million individual returns were filed in 2015. 119 million refunds were issued as a result of about 7 million businesses and 30 million or so withholding entities that end up submitting to IRS. And there's a slew of different kinds of customers that are dealing with this. And when we looked at the year in the life of the taxpayer, there's pre-file, when you're getting ready to file, there's actual filing, and I call that the point of sale process. That's when you actually file for us, and that's what the actual issue. And then there's post-file, and all the things that come out of that includes enforcement, and making sure that you actually have to pay over the time. So pre-file, filing, post-file. The filing activity is all about e-file, and that's a war that's been fought in relatively long. We're at 80+% in terms of e-file. So that was something that we didn't look at. What we looked at was the pre-file and post-file activity. So there are 16 different types of things that people have to do when they deal with the IRS in terms of service needs. They need a copy of the tax return, and they're about to file. They need to figure out how did they do last year. And so make sure that they're consistent with they can get their tax code what they need. And they may need to understand the tax implication, the tax law, so they come to us to figure that out. Some of these things are what I would call authenticated experiences, where we need to know who you are to give you your tax record. In some cases, we don't know, and you don't need for us to know. You just need to download the right form, or find the right publication, come to us, read the right tax, or read the right tax set of tax laws, and then you can act on it. So that's pre-tax, pre-file. Post-file, once you file, you may get a refund under 1990. Or you may have some sort of balance, about 28 million annually have some sort of balance due that file in April. So once again, we have to make it easy for you to be able to file, or rather pay. Martha mentioned a lot of the millions of phone calls that we do get. About 7 million phone calls a year on refund status and yet we have about 40 million folks that touch us digitally to get their email sites. And that's a really big way that people interact with the file and get their email sites. And so we, over the last few years, something we talked about, a few things that we do. So we looked across the service, we looked across all the different ways we can touch you. And then envision a world in the future where you can come to the IRS and have a virtual tax center online. You can check your account, you can see where you are, because about 40% of touches are all about status. They're all about, am I doing okay? Do I need to do something differently? What are you involved in your core IRS? What do you need from me? So these are all no change types of touches. Those should be easy for the taxpayer to come in, kind of get a big green light that says, this is what you have to do, checklist, or not. So think of a world where you can come in and authenticate securely, and then be able to check the status of your IRS account. And that's a very transactional. Within that, you might want to check your what tax parts apply to you, what forms are relevant to you, what may have changed from last year to this year. And so that's all the pre-file and post-file. So online content obviously is a very, very important part of that experience, making sure that you can check whatever types of interactions you may be interested in. So refund status, about 3 years ago we introduced a refund tracker, a mobile refund tracker, a pizza tracker, a FedEx tracker, and very visually see where your refund is in the process. You actually couldn't pay IRS free online, and that's a check, or November of 2013, we launched a way to enter your routing number account number and just be able to pay instantaneously. Again, real quickly do that. These are all elements of that overall online account. So of course, in the next few years, we hope to introduce the ability to do email communications, powers of attorney, which is a really important part of the tax industry. And more importantly, being able to do what you need to do with your information. It's your tax, it's your data, it's your account information. So if you're applying for a mortgage, you're able to get access to that and send it to whomever you send it. If you're applying for financial aid, you're able to do that. And so we are, one could argue that we are the gold standard for your income information. You do get that. And so how do we make that accessible to you? That we do it in a way that's secure, that you have confidence that it's correct, and that you have confidence that it's secure. So these are the kinds of things that we're doing in the next few years. We've come a long way. We're pretty excited about it, but in these budgets are, in this budget environment, we have to do things differently. And we have to do things in a way that consumers expect us to do things. And so that's what we're trying to do. We've been in the talks with ARPA about these things and other things we're doing later. So that's good.
Thank you. So we know federal student aid has come a long way. Wendy?
videos platforms, and we'll go through some of that later on in this, in our dialogue. Then what we did is let's look at our content. Is our content easy to read? Is it easy to follow? 2 years ago, I don't think it was, and I think it is now. We started doing videos. We started out with 2-minute videos, and what we found out was you're actually people aren't watching it. They drop off after about a minute or so. So right now, we're working on creating very short videos, 30 seconds to less than a minute videos that we'll be launching this year, and also doing infographics. Infographics that are very focused on different topics, or larger infographics where you can actually pull out information from them. So the interactive infographics. So we're constantly looking for new ways to reach our customers and where they are. And one of the new things with our videos that we're doing is we found out that we have all these videos on processes and how you need to go through things. But there's specific questions that need to be answered. Q&A. So we're launching a new video series called the Q series, which are actual financial experts that are being asked common questions and they're answering within 30 seconds or less. So we're really trying to target what our audience needs and how can we give it to them in accessible, easy ways. Another example of that are blogs. Blogs are very popular. We are currently have blogs, our blog posts on the Department of Education site, but we're working towards creating our own blog through Federal Student Aid, which will then keep people onto our student.gov site and not leave them off. One other really big innovative thing that we've done is we do something called Twitter office hours, where we actually talk to our customers live once a month with different topics. It's every Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock. And we send out the topic a few days ahead of time, get questions, some questions ahead of time, and answer a lot of live questions the day of. And it's become very popular. The Secretary has done, the Secretary of Education has done the Twitter office hours with us. We've done it in Spanish to reach out to our Spanish-speaking audience. And so we're constantly thinking of new ways to innovate, to reach our customer, and to find those platforms where our customers are at and meet them there as opposed to working them to come to our platforms.
Thank you.
So PSA, for those who don't know, is the agency that gives other agencies and states and followers we take care of buildings, we take care of prison, we're growing up service dogs, we take care of all sorts of things. So we do all this at a lower cost and with management not saving so our customers are very real, specifically people within agencies that are running buildings or are common council during goods and services. We also have small businesses and large businesses that also have PSA to so that we have to reach those businesses. So we've got a really diverse customer set. 6 years ago when we started the customer team at GSA, the first thing we did was say, we don't have the underlying information to make these design decisions that you guys want to make. We're not making data-driven decisions. Whether that is talking about them online, or offline, or on the phone, or in person. So the first thing we did was make it our objective to empower PSA employees with data around the so that in their daily jobs, they can make daily decisions. And that's required a lot of listening, a lot of revamping annual surveys and transactional surveys, listening to call centers, and basically pulling this all in and making it digestible to people at all levels of the organization. We've also been working with them to impact. So sometimes you can throw data over the wall, but then you don't get so we've been going around and as a team, we've hosted solution sessions, we put together governance boards around certain platforms. Basically, just trying to create teams and people that are accountable for we are now. And many of this is leading to design decisions, it's leading to decisions about how to continue optimizing or how to evolve our products and services. But those decisions are really I recently took on a position of associate manager for Oxford, which is a shared source service technology and software development. And we're hoping that we can take some of the learning from the customers and bring it over to Oxford and Internet and scale them across our country. So one of the things we're doing, or the first thing we're doing is create a federal for piloting. So how do we get data into the hands of activities? It doesn't even have to be smart. So how do we get that certain more understanding what their customers are about, what their customers experience there? And how can we then help them move past that area? So every time the customer team, we're kind of not at a scale across the country. And that's basically your house, so we can map it.
You're fine.
Good. How you doing? Good to see you. It's always good to see a room full of customers. And you're all our customers. And whether you're about to receive benefits, you have been receiving benefits, or you are just born, you are one of our customers. And it's always good to see a room full of customers. Customer service is not new to the Social Security Administration. But it's not far from perfect, and it's far from modern. I can imagine in any location I can go, and if I can pull up a box and get on it and start to talk about the administration, I'll get some folks who will tell me about their great. Come up and tell me about your great experience with the administration. Whether you're checking what your projected annuity might be, whether you're making sure that you're in the system, am I racking up those dollars as part of your wealth, whether we're providing benefits to a child that's lost a parent or two parents. What we do is important, we recognize it, and we're far from new to customer service. But I'll tell you, we're far from where customer service is today in society. We deliver benefits, we do that very well. We're concerned about being reliable, being consistent, being available. But that idea about what the customer experience is something that is new to us. And we're perplexed by it, and we're intrigued by it, and we recognize that there's a great number of technologies that are out there to help us improve customer experience. But first, we have to master what that is. When folks start using the terms customer journey, we need to translate it into the way that we have framed customer journey. A life events-driven process in our case. When customers come into an office, we always have to ask ourselves why. Sometimes it's a preference, sometimes there is a very specific need, but increasingly our customers really don't want to have a face-to-face. They want to transact their business and receive the benefits and services that they expect and need. So for us as an agency, while in the shadow of the agency that was founded by Lincoln in 1789, revenue service, we're kind of new, but we're not new. From FDR till today, we have built an infrastructure. We hand-built that infrastructure. We're the largest social insurance system in the world. We didn't go off to IBM and buy a social insurance system. We did start with that. And buy a bunch of tabulating systems. In fact, they had to create some systems for us. And increasingly over time, we evolved that enterprise from the basic mainframe to today 5 or 4 million, or 8 million, sorry,
and a distributed system that provisions services around the world. When we think of customer service, we are not finding new ways to touch the customer. We believe that we're going to experiment and deliver. We'll introduce videos so the customers can deal with us online and talk to somebody. We can have an answer to the very specific questions as opposed to having to come into an office. We want to be able to have little vignettes of our service, just like industry providers are able to do. But we recognize that investment in infrastructure that we built, Deputy CIO, so coming in from that, it wasn't really built to operate the way the deliver services that are in high demand today. And so we are having to take a look at what our installed base is and find frontier investments that can increasingly deliver greater value to our customers and transition and transform the infrastructure that we have today, built at great expense and with great pride by IT professionals and business professionals that try to frame a way to do business on an ongoing basis and make it reliable and dependable. And our challenge is focusing the front end against what people expect of their government and re-engineering the back end so that the people inside the agency, those social insurance experts, can deliver information, can deliver services, they can do it timely. They're not having to do Herculean efforts to try to jerry-rig systems as I do see today when I go around. Have to navigate through 5 screens to get a simple answer to a customer question. Not have to look at multiple sources of information to get a total picture on a customer experience with our agency. We do big things. We have big numbers, all of us on this panel here. Our challenge, and I think it's our collective challenge, is not only are you our customers, but you are our providers and partners, is helping us to one, re-engineer the back end, make our systems more supportive of the social insurance specialists that deliver great value to the American people. It's helping us to re-engineer the front and or engineer the front. And because we're just not talking about technology, right? I mean, customer service is a multi-channel endeavor. It's finding ways to connect these channels in ways that are efficient and effective and allow us to, again, deliver that better service. And these are challenges that we all have. We all want to serve you, our customers, better and smarter. The American taxpayer provides us with good money, not enough to run the time. But we have, in many cases, the means and resources to do the work we have to do. It's for us to have the attention span, the discipline to bring to bear the plans and programs that with building capabilities, and ultimately for you and our guys as partners to deliver that service. Customer service isn't new to government, but the ways to deliver customer service today are going to get easier. And we welcome your ideas and certainly your help. And we have something to do.
Thanks, Rob. So 3 out of the 5 agencies up there have a single person responsible for their customer. And the latest one is at the Veterans Affairs as the Chief Veteran Experience Officer. So I'll turn it over to you.
This is my call is to be prompted and inspired. To give you a sense of how early on the establishment of a customer experience dedicated organization came to me. When Mary Anna asked me my titles, had to lean over to Tom and say, Tom, what's going on? When Secretary McDonald took over VA this past summer in the wake of some significant challenges that revolved around customer experience, he can lead a task force to look at the overarching issues that we face as a department and how to confront if we were going to regain the trust of the American people. What emerged from that analysis was that the central issue was a lack of customer centricity. We're an organization whose prioritization, resource allocation, and governance largely centered around optimizing internal processes with relatively little regard for the ultimate impact that would have on the experience of the customer. I think a lot of us are familiar with the Forrester paradigm for what constitutes a great customer experience, this idea of effectiveness, ease, and engagement. When we thought about those things and how we measured up, we found that we were falling down pretty significantly. In terms of effectiveness, I think we face a lot of the challenges, probably even greater order of magnitude than we can. We're a massively stovepipe organization. We have a vast array of services and benefits that are available to our customers. Everything from healthcare to compensation, pensions, education, rehab, education, on and on. But it was very difficult for our customers to understand what benefits they were entitled to and then to access those benefits. And the stories that kind of emerged out of these problems either aggravating or heartbreaking. The sorts of things where our National Cemeteries Administration buries a veteran, yet the Veterans Benefits Administration continues paying benefits to his family. Until about 6-8 months later, we figure out that's what's going on, and then we say, oh yeah, you accrued a debt, and now all this comes back to home. So effectiveness massively falling down. When it comes to ease, here, I think a lot of the problems revolve around the extent to which our own workforce is trained, empowered, and supported to deliver the kind of customer experience that they know is necessary. As we reached out to them to get a sense of their perspective, the kind of response we got is this. So I think it was a community medical center in Charlotte. We were talking about the importance of customer experience. And one of the patients was saying something like, I got it. I understand what a good customer experience is. I understand what good customer service is. So even though it's my job to sit here at the front desk and answer people's questions and sit down, I understand that when there's a veteran wandering around doesn't know how to make it easy for them. What I should be doing is taking him by the hand, leading him across the hospital, and making sure he gets to where he needs to go. But for one, that's not how my performance is being assessed. I'm being assessed on how many phone calls I answer, how many questions I field. So there's misalignment in coordination and incentives. Massive resources problems. If I'm getting that veteran across the hospital, that means there's nobody else to pick up the phone or answer it. So these are just kind of a sampling of the problems that we've encountered as we try to scope out the work that needs to be done. Getting our arms around this is sort of what we're in the process of now. And I just want to give a quick shout out to ACT-IAC and to Marcus, who have done some terrific work in helping us learn what we can from small enterprise, and begin building.
Thank you all. So we have 10 minutes left, and I'm either the best moderator or the worst moderator in the district. So I think I'm going to open it up to the audience, because I know you guys are dying to ask some questions. I've got a whole page of them, but do we have any in the audience that?
And the question I have is actually very general. So when I go and I have a great customer service experience, I make sure that I write some sort of review, like on Yelp or TripAdvisor. And I just was curious, I mean, how are you guys collecting feedback from the customer base so you can kind of change your experience and gather that feedback? We would narrow those down significantly, and we had a feedback. So whenever someone is acting in USA, they're now asked how to do it. We also have a lot of listening data, and just never really play with them, and never listen to, so it's also something that is a great way for understand what's happening there, because people are fast. And now the magic is to put them together and make it practical. So we're putting in, we were missing a lot of private sector, so we're putting that into our belief and then getting back to the right hands at an independent, the dramatic partnership.
This gets funny. So in one sense, we do standard surveys for customer information. It's very straightforward, looking for the indicators of what that experience is. We can do better in that area and we focus on that. One of the areas that like many agencies, we have large stakeholder groups. There are large groups that are interested in us and the services that we perform to their constituents, and they provide us with really uncredited information. And they collect that information unlike the way we have to collect it. They do use a lot of social media. They allow us to and encourage and invite us to see the feedback that's coming on a local office or regional office. And that is very valuable for us. We do see a lot of compliments that come in through that channel, far more than in our survey channel. And it's our responsibility then to act on it. When somebody's coming in positive, then let's make sure we find where those positive comments are coming in line, and make sure that they get down to the organization that's really generous. And where we're seeing negatives in it, we need to understand what those negatives are. Are they individual events? Is there a trend in the organization or in the region? Is there some resource limitation or some way that the resources are being provided to the organizations that are limiting positive feedback to them? And I'm learning a lot about feedback, the use of that feedback, the channels that we can derive feedback from, both direct and indirect. And we're really aggressively pursuing the ways to better understand it, but more importantly, better ways to use it.
So one of the things I want to kind of chime in here, in the OCSIT side of our organization, we started piloting about 2 years ago, which was to take the 4 questions from the digital government strategy that are required for all websites. And so for years, we've been trying to figure out a way to assess your online experience, the call center experience, and like the publication experience, and how do you take the input from and feedback from all those channels and turn it into a number. And so we use those 4 questions, and then and those are, did you accomplish your task? How satisfied are you with the overall experience? Would you return to this website or call center, and would you recommend it to someone else? And so we took the 4s and 5s, minus the 1s and 2s, and we got a score for each question. we averaged it, and now we have a government customer experience index for all of our citizen-facing channels, as well as we did with all of our agency-facing customers on programs that you're all familiar with, like FedRAMP, Digital Government University, Challenge.gov, all those kind of programs. So there was some open-ended questions on strengths and weaknesses, which then are fed back to each program manager, and they have to do action plans to actually implement changes to the programs based on feedback that they got directly from the customer. So that's one of the ways that we started piloting it, and we tweaked it a little bit over time. So back to the panel. Wendy, did you have something?
It's also really interesting to think about the business case for some of the customer experience initiatives that we have. So you think about call center operations, for instance, and payments and initiatives. If you do a better job proactively providing information to our customers, the sort of information we want, the sorts to make their experience easier, that obviates the need for a huge amount of traffic that we see at call centers. And in a certain sense, like, these things ought to be a net positive in terms of
Mary Dixon from our ELC panel, solve the problem, don't just answer the question, because we all took that away.
So I agree with you about that. I think the idea around focusing activity, finding an advocate for customers in their experience, and finding better ways, solutions inside the agency to deliver better solutions outside is important. But the challenge, so here's our agencies haven't just been making customers. We've been our customers for quite some time. Thank you to the board. But you've not always been happy customers, and you've not always been noisy customers, and you've not always been, there's many ways to think about how customer feedback is. In some agencies, and I would say in our agencies too, you ask the question, we don't have a chief customer officer, but we're close, and we're certainly studying our colleagues, also very close. You ask the question, who here has the ear of the customer? Who here knows the voice of the customer? Who is the principal advocate for customer experience? Well, most You know, it's like the commissioner, but I am, you know, that's what I'm on the hook for, that's what I do. But then you start, you know, very politely, in my case, kind of going through the many things that represent customer experience, and then you begin to pinpoint where the touch points across the agency are, and then you get to a sense of why there needs to be an advocate. I mean, someone who can cut across it all, certainly with a lot of help. This means that there also needs a lot of talk about it. And it does require resources, not always in the Chief Customer Service Officer's organization or in their budget, but it does require agency resources. So there's politics on the outside of government, and then there's politics on the inside of government. Chief Customer Officers have, I think, in what I've seen in the successful examples, are the organizations that kind of get it. Someone's got to shepherd this stuff for me. There's a lot involved. There's technical channels, there's non-technical channels, but the customer experience at the end of the day is the customer experience. And how a customer views their experience with the agency is what they think of that agency, and quite often there's that. So I certainly agree with that. I would agree with our boss to go down this path, and I think they're on very good
One final point on that, you mentioned earlier about re-engineering the front end and the back end. And one thing we found is that our frontline employees are amazing. They know exactly what, in many cases, what the customer should do. They're hands-on. They're not able to do what's right for the customer. And so the process question, how do you give them the forum to re-engineer the process, both in the front end and the back end, to make that experience better? And that, we found, to be a huge driver for making some of these changes, bolting on somebody who knows the detailed operations and what the customer experience could be, putting together and letting go figure out the complex problem. And that model has worked. So coming in from the outside on a horse and saying we're here to help, it doesn't help the customer experience, but holding on and old bank, new bank thinking really does seem to work. So we're using that model to drive the type of experience. We have a structural issue about our brand when it comes to customer experience. I won't go there.
Yeah, hi, Andy Weaver. This has been touched on some. Martha mentioned at the beginning and walking addressed it. But what types of factors do you put into your business case for justifying further investments in improving customer service?
So what makes customer service a sellable sell when you have to compete for resources?
Yes.
I'll give you my experience, and I'm sure my colleagues will share theirs. At SSA, it's just not our interest. It's the American people's interest as voiced through Congress. They have very specific interest in the customer experience, and they tell us so very, very visibly, and they tell us so very, very specifically in our budget. In the president's budget, the administration tells us very specific areas that we should focus on. And we identify very, very specific areas as part of our strategy, a cross-cutting strategy for the agency. The challenge in these things is that resources compete. And unless you keep that light on what is a customer service issue, what contributes to a customer service issue, you fail. And you know, it's not necessarily the website. It's not necessarily the customer-facing side. If the folks inside the organization fail to deliver in their jobs, or they're being measured on the wrong things, or the tools that they have and inhibit their ability to serve the customer well, we've still failed. So it's really thinking customer service as a system, not just technology, but as a system that involves people, process, and technology.
If I could add to that, the business case is, and we've run so many numbers, the business case works. When you compare a specific transaction to a call or a walk-in, a service interaction, the numbers work. This is not a numbers business case, and that's the case that we've made. It's strategic imperative. You have to do better. You can't just do it the way you've been doing it. You have to serve effectively the expectation of the taxpayer. That's the reality of the budget, and the numbers are good, and they do. And so what we found is that they want, certainly, work, but beyond that, it needs to be a strategic imperative. And that's what makes the case. If you don't do it, it puts you can't serve, you just can't do the job. I'm not going to say that, but you know what I'm saying? You just can't move the mission forward.
I think that's one of the goals too of the CAP goal is to determine what products can help across all agencies. One of the things that we're working on is the federal feedback button, but being able to create things once and use across agencies so that then they can divert those resources to other places. You have a question over here.
Hi, Betty, Council Coles, Department 1. I work my dynasty focused. As your agencies are defining and building better capabilities and services for delivery to citizens, some would say it comes down to understanding the data, where it resides, and what you need to do with it. With that in mind, how are you looking at the cloud, and how do you determine the type of cloud you're leaning towards, private, public, or hybrid, or perhaps what are the barriers to cloud you're solving in order to consider cloud services delivery?
It's a big bag of work. I'm just learning about it now. Clearly, cloud allows us to make changes faster, right? So it allows us to be, so from my perspective, it allows us to, from not from my perspective, it allows customer relations to react, right? To customer data. So that's exactly what one of the things that attracts people to go to cloud. I love the technology speak to them.
Well, I mean, cloud's not a technology issue to me. Cloud's a business issue, right? And I'll tell you a secret truth. Everybody raise your right hand, promise not to tell outside. Okay. In 2010, folks, their OMBs said, hey, we're moving to the cloud, everybody use the cloud, do this, everybody, here's a target for you guys, and we want you to self-report on how much you are in the cloud. And we kind of looked out there on guidance, we looked out in industry, and what folks were preparing was cloud. And we said, okay, well, we operate a private cloud. 99% of our services are mediated through the cloud. Therefore, so lo and behold, the Department of Commerce comes out with a definition of what cloud is for government, and we start going through things, and it's like, oh, we missed this one, we missed this one. And last year we decided, no, we ought to fess up. Because if we don't, someone's going to come by and say, hey, you missed these two things. So we did, and now we're less than 5% of the cloud. It's not a place that we want to be. It's not because of the metrics. It's not a place that we want to be because we compete for resources. We have challenged, we're challenged in getting the talent we want aboard to do the work that we need for them to do, and lo and behold, we don't need to have them aboard to do it. So a good amount of our business services, the things that we do that are outside the mission, lend themselves to cloud service propositions today. And we're re-energized to, one, raise our numbers, but two, raise that number. The other side of it, and on business services, it can be private cloud, it can be hybrid cloud, and in some cases, and we're really working hard to several these cases, it can be a public cloud. but for the mission, you know, we're on 29 petabytes of data that, you know, that goes back to your great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers. We're real concerned about what we put in the cloud and how secure it is in the cloud. Because if we break faith with our customers, if they feel that the data that we hold, the transactions that we conduct with them is not secure. One is they're not going to feel secure in doing services with us, except face-to-face, which is a great inconvenience to me. And more importantly, we failed to. So that decision, how we transact, how we provision our mission services, we're moving a little more slowly. But we recognize that national security data is in the cloud. You know, health provider data is in the cloud. It doesn't mean that we're not moving in that direction. It means that we'll take a measured pace, whereas in our business systems, we'll take a more aggressive pace.
Hi, my name is Bill Erico. I'm with a small business, and I want to thank all of you for participating in this thing. And Martha, and you, moderator. I have a question about culture. And how are you going to ensure that the culture of customer service permeates and stays throughout the organization from the top to the bottom? Anyone who wants to jump on that one, please do.
Really what we've done, we've really approached that. We did it two approaches. One is we try to work in the metrics of performance and everything. So we try to take the enforcement, right? And we're looking at that cascade through the organization. It's hard to do the position of the performance against customer data and including customer experience. The other approach is taking a software approach and say, really engagement with customer service, and that's the dominant reason. So how can we better engage our employees so that they can ultimately get a better customer experience? So we partnered with our HR department to actually map out the employee experience, the user experience, and actually map out the employee experience from the moment they hear about the job opening, the first day, the first month, etc. And we understand now what our employees go through their life cycle, and we're working to kind of feed every single point of that life cycle. So it's one's a measured approach and one's a software approach. Not really just going to be
just starting to think this through a little bit for us and how we get the employees to really be able to embrace what customer experience unit is doing. So we'll come back in a year and let you know where we are with that.
Culture? We got culture. So, you know, for a Social Security insurance specialist, it's about 2 years and change to be competent in the job. And the history of the agency is that once, you know, it's like Hotel California, once you come in, you never go out. We have people that receive 50 years ago and go right back to work. But we have, and that's a great story. Folks are passionate about what they do. They learn. They're always wanting in their work. But we see a demographic pattern across our agency. character and nature of that. And we're not going to have the luxury of having folks that join the agency in 60 years later and decide when we're going to take that one day across the country. So we're having to think real hard about what is the employee experience. What are the values that we want to impart that those people that built the agency, that hand-built the agency in many respects, process, the technology, the best of what they brought to the agency, how we can pass that on to a generation that will be or generations to come that will likely be with us for shorter periods of time. No less in passion, but they will learn less because they will be with us for shorter periods of time. But these are systems that support them, both technical and non-technical, we can be smarter. We need to capture those values in ways that are meaningful, not just what we think at headquarters, but how those values translate in field operations and customer-centric and exchanges. And those are very challenging things for us. And it is something that we are focused on from an HR standpoint, from a field operations standpoint, and those folks who deal with disability, and for all of us that build systems that support that. And we can certainly use your help. Culture, yeah, we got a lot of culture. Can we translate the most positives in that culture to the next generation? And I hope the next investment.
When it comes to culture, for us, service is part of our mission statement. It's part of our DNA when it comes to delivering better service or good service to taxpayer effects. 8 out of 10 customers, once they got through, right, after 35 minutes of waiting, we're very happy with the service. That's good. That's a good sign. But the issue, cultural issue related to that is somebody mentioned, when you mentioned A/B testing. That implies imperfection. So experience, right? So how do you allow somebody to test a service experience, fail, and move on? That's the cultural experience that's hard. And that is hard. And that's really the challenge. We'll get there, I think.
I think it's evident from the reaction of all the panelists how sensitive this question is really certainly the way not to create culture, particularly in an organization with already an existing sense of disconnect between the headquarters and field, is to create an impression that the folks from Washington are bringing that lantern and learning out to the dark corners of the organization. There's a substantive component of this that's aside from culture, and that is a real humility about what we do and don't know, what we can and can't do from where we sit in the organization. Understanding that a lot of the great ideas that ultimately drive the kind of experiences that we're looking for are resident with people who are doing this on the front lines and providing a forum for those ideas to get those to be purchased by the organization, ultimately community. So that's a substantive, something that's substantively important to getting the ideas right. But when you have those processes in place, the kind of the culture and the buy-in that follows from it is
Thank you. Thanks to all of our panelists. I think you see we just got the tip of the iceberg here today, and I know this is going to be the first of many, many conversations that we have ongoing about this topic. From culture to performance measurement to technology to governance to on and on and on. I think customer experience touches every part of the organization and every part of what ACT-IAC does. And so I look forward to kind of rolling out more and more initiatives through ACT-IAC and the technology community. And could you please give our panelists a round?
Remember, you guys promised not to tell anybody about that. I'll hold you to it.
Good. All right. So the last slide said The next membership meeting, March 18th, 2015. Of course, between now and then is Mardi Gras, and so there is a reception right outside the door. So thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you at the next member meeting.